Some rooms are designed to heal. Others are designed to erase. In the middle of the 20th century, inside a respected psychiatric hospital in Canada, patients entered treatment believing they would be helped. Many never truly returned. There were no prison bars, no armed guards, no visible violence. There were doctors, white walls, and doors that closed quietly. What happened inside those rooms was not the work of criminals hiding in the shadows. It was organized, funded, and justified by institutions that believed themselves untouchable. During the early years of the Cold War, fear shaped policy more than evidence. Intelligence agencies in the West became obsessed with one question: what if the human mind could be controlled? Rumors circulated of enemy programs capable of brainwashing prisoners, erasing loyalty, and rewriting identity. Whether these claims were real or exaggerated mattered less than the anxiety they created. Fear alone was enough to authorize extreme responses. Out of this paranoia emerged a covert research program later known as MKUltra. Its mandate was deliberately vague. There were no fixed ethical limits, no transparent oversight, and no clearly defined endpoint. Anything that might alter perception, memory, behavior, or identity was considered a legitimate avenue of research. Drugs, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, electroshock, psychological stress. Nothing was off the table. What made the program especially dangerous was its structure. Rather than operating from a single laboratory, it dispersed funding across universities, hospitals, prisons, and private researchers. Money moved through front organizations and shell foundations, ensuring plausible deniability. If something went wrong, no single institution could be held responsible. When American laws and public scrutiny threatened to interfere, the solution was not restraint. It was relocation. Research that could not be openly conducted in the United States would simply be moved elsewhere. Canada offered the perfect environment: stable, respected, and closely aligned with American intelligence interests. It raised little suspicion. In Montreal, one institution stood out: the Allan Memorial Institute. On the surface, it was a world-class psychiatric hospital affiliated with a major university. Its reputation was impeccable. Patients arrived seeking help for depression, anxiety, postpartum distress, or short-term psychological issues. Families trusted it completely. Quietly, funding began flowing into the institute through academic grants and research support. The original source of the money was obscured, but it traced back to the Central Intelligence Agency. Few people inside the hospital understood the true purpose behind the funding. Even fewer questioned it. At the center of the Montreal experiments was one man: Ewen Cameron. To the outside world, Cameron was a towering figure in psychiatry. He had led major professional associations and was widely regarded as a pioneer in mental health treatment. His authority shielded the work from skepticism. If Cameron approved it, few dared to challenge it. Cameron believed that mental illness was the result of faulty mental patterns, learned behaviors and memories that could be erased and replaced. His theory was not about healing in the traditional sense. It was about reconstruction. Before a personality could be rebuilt, he argued, it had to be completely destroyed. The mind needed to be reduced to a blank state. The process began with extreme electroconvulsive therapy. Patients were given electric shocks at levels far exceeding accepted medical standards, not to treat symptoms, but to wipe memory and identity. Sessions were repeated relentlessly. Confusion became permanent. Orientation disappeared. Basic cognitive abilities began to fail. Drugs followed. Massive doses of LSD, sedatives, barbiturates, and stimulants were administered, sometimes in combination. Patients drifted between hallucination and unconsciousness. Some were placed into drug-induced comas lasting weeks. When they awoke, many could not recognize their surroundings, their families, or themselves. Language skills vanished. Emotional responses flattened. The goal was not recovery. The goal was regression. To strip the patient down to a childlike or infantile state. Then came the rooms that would later define the experiment. Patients were placed into isolation chambers where sensory input was almost completely removed. No light, no sound, no sense of time. Days blurred into weeks. Deprived of stimulation, the human brain began to fracture. Hallucinations intensified. Thought patterns unraveled. Panic set in, followed by emotional numbness. Into this emptiness, new inputs were introduced. Audio recordings were played on endless loops, simple phrases repeated thousands of times. These messages continued while patients slept, lay motionless, or drifted in chemically altered states. This technique, known as psychic driving, was intended to implant new thoughts into a mind stripped of resistance. Consent was never obtained. Patients were never told what was happening. Families were never warned. What makes the Montreal experiment especially disturbing is not only its methods, but its victims. Many patients had entered the hospital with relatively mild conditions. Some were new mothers suffering postpartum depression. Others were professionals experiencing anxiety or temporary emotional distress. They trusted doctors. They trusted institutions. When they left, if they left at all, they were often unrecognizable. Adults forgot how to read. Parents failed to recognize their own children. Independent individuals became permanently dependent on others for basic functioning. Entire personalities were erased, replaced with confusion and emptiness. The hospital recorded outcomes, documented behaviors, and compiled data. What it did not record was accountability. Eventually, fragments of the truth began to surface. Funding connections were uncovered. Former patients and families came forward, struggling to explain what had been taken from them. Investigations followed, but by then, much of the evidence was already gone. Records had been destroyed. Responsibility was scattered across agencies, institutions, and decades. Governments acknowledged errors. Settlements were paid quietly, without full admissions of guilt. No senior figures were criminally prosecuted. No institutions were dismantled. The system absorbed the scandal and moved on. Today, the Montreal experiment is no longer secret. But secrecy was never its greatest protection. Normalization was. Doctors framed it as science. Intelligence agencies framed it as national security. Governments framed it as a product of its time. Yet the techniques developed in those quiet rooms did not vanish. They were studied, refined, and absorbed into broader psychological and behavioral research. Names changed. Justifications evolved. Oversight improved, but power structures remained. The question is not whether it happened. The evidence is clear that it did. The question is more unsettling. If respected institutions once believed they had the right to erase a human mind in pursuit of knowledge and control, what makes us certain that belief disappeared? And if doors were once closed quietly, without witnesses, without consent, how can we be sure they are not still closed today?